Welcome to the CEO Tech Talks podcast, where vision meets impact. I am your host, Ambreen Ahmed. Each episode, I sit down with exceptional leaders who are shaping the future of business, technology, and transformation. This show is about more than just success. It's about clarity, purpose, and those bold decisions that light the way forward. Join me as we uncover the insights, challenges, and breakthroughs from today's most inspiring voices. Leaders who are redefining what it means to lead in a rapidly changing world. This is CEO Tech Talks. Let's dive in. Good afternoon. Great to meet you, Craig. Thank you for joining. How are you?
I'm good, Umbreen. Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Wonderful. I'd like to talk about you and your company, CyberHoot, of which you are the CEO. So can you share a bit about your role and how it fits into the big picture at CyberHoot?
So, in order to understand CyberHoot, we're a learning management system and also a consulting firm that teach cyber literacy on the SaaS platform through a series of assignments, whether it's videos, monthly videos, or an industry disruptive technology we call Hootfish, which provides phishing simulations that are based on rewards and gamification instead of punishment. Most of the industry that tries to teach cyber literacy or cybersecurity skills punishes bad behaviors. Clicking on links that you shouldn't, you fail the phishing test and you get assigned remedial training. That's not our approach. Our approach is to flip the script on that and to use positive rewards, engagement, reinforcement. And we're having enormous success doing so. And we attribute that to a multidisciplinary approach. How I fit into the company is I helped found CyberHoot in 20 years in cybersecurity. Since then, 25, 30 years now. But I have a degree in psychology, Umbreen. And that degree taught me what motivates people to engage, to participate, to learn and change behaviors through an internal locus of control, what we call intrinsic motivation. And it's not punishment, not in the least. In fact, punishment, if you think about training dogs with a shock collar, they shut down and they get nervous and fearful and they don't learn. But if you do treats, they get excited and they are encouraged to do more and they want to take you to the dog park to learn more and to have fun. Employees and kids are no different, right? If you want to teach them how to be safe online, you have to reward the good things that they need to do and teach them coping skills around how to spot and avoid phishing. So this psychological approach is something I brought to the company, along with the co-founders who also have extensive experience in cybersecurity program development and development itself. And together we've built a very successful company called CyberHoot. And we sell, I like to tell people we pay taxes in most countries of the world now, because you have to get a certain amount of revenue to have Nexus. And then when you have Nexus in that company, you have to pay taxes there. So we're happily paying taxes all over the world now.
That sounds like a good problem to have, I think.
It is, yes.
I'm just curious, you mentioned, so there's a reward system. What is that reward system?
So in the typical platform, you would be assigned a video once a month. And when you finish the video, it might take 5 minutes. It could take 30 minutes. You have a quiz and you're done. In our platform, we give a certificate of completion. In that certificate, which you can print out, put on your wall if you want, you get continuing education credits in that certificate, 15 minutes towards your annual requirements for whatever industry requirement you have. If you're a CPA or a lawyer or a teacher or a doctor, dentist, what have you, you usually have ongoing educational requirements of which cyber literacy, cybersecurity qualifies. Additionally, we give gamification. So we give you an avatar, which starts out as this beautiful little baby owl in a nest. And then it grows, and it grows with your cyber literacy. As you complete assignments, your owl becomes more mature and more defensive looking and more ferocious looking. And we have 7 tiers of these owls, and people compete inside their companies to see who can get further along faster by completing these assignments and by doing them both on time with the most correct answers, right? You get more points if you get perfect, but you can get less points if you pass but have a few mistakes in your quizzes and things. So we've added this idea of healthy competition, gamification, these avatars, certificates. All of these things are meant to be moderate levels of rewards. They're not huge rewards. You can overdo this. And let's say, in psychology, we talk about removing that internal accomplishment feeling when a parent gives a car to a teenage son or daughter who graduates high school.
Mm-hmm.
And it invalidates how much effort and work they did, the intrinsic sense of accomplishment, because sometimes they think to themselves, this is just a natural psychological phenomenon. I just graduated because I got the car, not because I wanted to learn or it was important to me. In other words, if you oversize the rewards and the benefits, there's this counterintuitive back problem where people don't make it their own responsibility anymore. So in classrooms as teachers, they want to give little tiny rewards to students to get them to engage in the materials they're teaching. And the hope is that the student then becomes a lifelong learner because they enjoy the sense of accomplishment of learning a new topic or a subject or a particular task. And that's a real, true, benefit of a smart and accomplished teacher who knows just the right levers to push and to twist to get the students to engage, and then they become lifelong learners. So that's the approach we've tried to take at CyberHoot, where we give just these moderate, a modicum of rewards and benefits and recognition of the accomplishments of the end users, who then feel empowered and engaged to continue their cyber smarts journey, learning these particular skills, whether it's how to fish or a password manager or password hygiene or Wi-Fi security, whatever the topics are. We throw them into these 3-minute videos that are very entertaining, and then we reward them for completion. And we find at the end of the day, what we find is that we have very high engagement. So compliance scores are in the high 90s for many, many companies.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the key differentiator, the key challenge, if you will, in our industry as a whole, is an overwhelming sense of apathy and disengagement from employees all over the world in all sorts of companies because they've been punished one too many times. They've been called out and shamed for failing a phishing test. You clicked, you have to go watch this 45-minute video.
Okay.
So all of that, it's really easy to get it wrong and to cause your employees to just give up or to quit, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
So this has a lot of positive benefit, it sounds like.
Yes.
So what does a typical day look like for you?
Wow. For me, I've recently taken on some customer retention tasks. We have, 300 different MSPs using our platform today. And I think it's closing in on 85,000 users in the system. And as a CEO here of a small company, we wear many, many hats. So I could be consulting on our virtual CISO role with one of our subcontractors who work for us. They follow our methodology of building a cybersecurity program at a company they're assigned to for a monthly fee. I could be meeting with them to guide them through our process or to answer questions or challenges, remove obstacles. I could then be turning to write, a series of outreach emails that engage with our existing client base to say, hey, it's just me, CEO of CyberHoot. How are things? Any feedback, positive, negative, opportunities for improvement? We want to work together to make the product what you need and to serve your needs. I could be doing a statement of work around an annual program for a school district here in New Hampshire. We have a dozen school districts signed up to CyberHoot to learn to teach cybersecurity skills to their teachers, their administrators, to try and fight this scourge of ransomware that is being attacking all the school districts of the world because they carry cyber insurance. I could be answering inquiries for new business, partnership conversations on podcasts with wonderful people like you. So it's quite a variety of things. Whatever the need is that arises, we have to step in and fill the gap.
Of course. So what major shifts are you seeing in your industry right now?
Well, we're not seeing the shift that we want most, which is a movement from punishment, from sticks as a consequence of clicking on fake email phishing tests, to rewards and benefits and engagement. We see, and this was just last week, we were made aware and we wrote a white paper, 2 weeks ago at Black Hat in Las Vegas. This is an annual conference of hackers and white hats, security researchers, government entities. It's like a smorgasbord of people. And one of the presentations, it's meant to go and learn about cybersecurity. What are the attacks that are happening? What are the defenses that are being developed? what are the best practices that companies are adopting. And security researchers from the University of Chicago and San Diego presented a paper where they studied 20,000 employees at a large healthcare provider, and specifically in regards to phishing proficiency, the ability for those 20,000 employees to identify a phishing attack in their inbox, delete it, not click on it, not open it, not visit the website that it's embedded into that phishing email. And over 8 months, they said they convinced over half, 55% of the 20,000 employees, to click on a fake email phishing test that they sent to the inboxes, which was a dismal response. Measured the performance of employees in various cohorts. What you do when you do a study is you put groups of users into cohorts. One cohort had zero training, none whatsoever, to see how they performed on the same set of phishing attack emails sent to the inboxes. And there was a few other cohorts that got static training and interactive training and a variety of videos, training, everything that the industry normally delivers, but not our Hootfish, not CyberHoot's Hootfish. We were not there. We were not participating. They concluded that the default method of training with videos and then fake email phishing tests is broken. It does not work. They saw a 1.7% difference from the control group to every other control group they had that they provided different methods of training. And then they said also, the bigger problem is that we have disengagement. We have employees who click on phishing links. We got 55% of the users to do it more than once, or at least once, I think they said. Some did it multiple times. And when people fail, they have to go watch a video to learn how not to repeat that failure. You get a notice. It says, pops up on your screen, Breen, you've clicked on a phishing email. This was meant to measure your ability to spot and avoid these things. And since you failed, you have to go watch this video. And their study said, on average, the users watched 10 seconds of the 30-minute video that was meant to teach users how to phishing works. So the remediation is broken as well. And there's this large sort of disengagement. People are frustrated, they're upset, they're not happy, and they're not paying attention to the videos that get sent to teach them how not to do it again. It's almost like it's apathy on steroids. We looked at that and we wrote this white paper that's available on our webpage. If you go to cyberhoot.com, you can download the white paper that talks about why traditional gotcha phish testing, which those emails are sent to your inbox, and if you click them, they gotcha, right? You make a mistake, you fail, and you go, why that doesn't work? Because it's focused on negative or punishment theory, and that never works. It only stops the behavior temporarily, and even then, it never is internalized for long-term behavior modification or change. These are psychological phenomena that go back to 1953 when B.F. Skinner said, if you reinforce a behavior, it is more likely to be repeated. It's as simple as that. Right? Reinforce the behaviors you want. Yeah, I could go into it, but it's beyond the scope of our podcast. So we have this wonderful white paper that sort of changes the industry's perspective, or we're hoping it will help move the industry as a whole from negative to positive, from punishment to rewards, to really start to address this huge industry of cyber crime that's out there. It's the third largest economy in the world last year by some accounts. There's the United States GDP of $25-30 trillion. There's China's GDP. And then there's cybercrime somewhere in the neighborhood of $10 trillion of payments to bad guys.
Wow.
And women. It's an enormous, enormous problem. And it's like, you might scratch your head and say, I can't believe it. That number is so big, but it's no different than, say, mental health problems, that you don't hear people talking about mental health because there's a stigma attached to it, right? We also don't talk about the breaches that happen at our companies if we can avoid it, because of the embarrassment, because of the loss of customer retention, the lack of confidence that you can protect my data at your company. So it goes all underneath the waterline. It's like hidden from all of us, and yet it is the third largest economy in the world. It's ridiculous. So we're hoping that the industry can learn better methods to really change behaviors to make everybody out there more resilient to these attacks that come in both personally and professionally every day.
Sure. It sounds like this may be then I don't want an upside for your organization because so there's a lack of a trend here that we would like to see, but so then
Yeah.
how has this impacted your business and growth strategy?
Well, at the end of the day, you have to convince people that the method that $6 billion industry is trying to foist upon us is flawed, right? And even in that presentation at Black Hat, they said we have to go to the vendors who are pushing the metrics and the performance measurements of their own tools, because what they tell you is very different than what we just told you. They tell you you can reduce clicking on phishing from 50% down to 3%, right? Our measurements didn't support that, they said. I'm paraphrasing. We only saw 1.7% difference between no training and the training that everybody's talking about is the holy grail solution. So what are we doing at CyberHoot? We have actually attracted and have a study in the works with 3 university researchers at the University of Colorado and Tennessee who are putting an IRB approved study, an internal review board approved study together. We're meeting tomorrow, I think, again, to measure the effectiveness of our Hootfish platform, the one that provides engagement, positive rewards, gamification, to just measure how people perform before the study, during the study, after the study on phishing identification and avoidance. And then we're also going to measure them, how they felt doing it, the affect. Because if you think about the dog example, when you're shocking the dog, they shut down, they're scared, they could even become more vicious, right? Versus the treat approach where they're happy and their tails wagging and they want to go and they actually pester you to go to the dog park because they enjoy the fun activities. We get 80 to 90% thumbs up on our phishing exercises and our videos at CyberHoot because of the rewards, because those are of those who choose to rate us. Now, it's possible there are those that don't like us that don't rate us, but we only know what people are telling us, and we see 80 to 90% positive feedback, and we do see occasional complaints because we get something wrong, but we're not perfect, and we immediately go out and update the database to fix that so that everyone can benefit from the one person who took time to say. I think there was one the other day where DocuSign changed their S in their sign. It used to be a capital S. And so when we sent out an email with the safe example being DocuSign with a capital S, it was no longer true. So someone said, hey, you might not know this, but a year ago, DocuSign changed their S in DocuSign from a capital S to a lowercase s, which invalidates your test because we're watching for these little changes to domain names. And when you display it with a capital S, I know it's a fish because it's not reflective of what they do today. So we had to fix that. But those are just some of the examples of how serious we take these things and try to keep on top of industry changes.
Okay. Well, thank you for sharing all that about the industry, how you fit into it. Now I want to turn a little bit into CyberHoot. So what's
Sure.
working well for you and what's been frustrating?
Well, we've been hoping to have not meteoric growth, but hockey stick shaped growth, right? Where people hear about what we're doing, how we're doing it, and why it works so well. It hasn't quite been the growth that we've wanted to date for a variety of reasons, we think. I think there's been a lack of outreach to the places, the business decision makers of MSPs, MSSPs, IT departments congregate for answers. That's one thing. But, we let's put it a different way. We have self-funded our company and we've been okay with slower growth because we own 100% of our trajectory. We own 100% of our company. And we think the long-term benefits to the consumers of our technology outweigh the slower growth that we've experienced to date. All that being said, we're preparing all the time for some extra large growth. We've got performance improvements in our platform over the last 12 months. We're going to get a SOC 2 Type 2 certification to allow us to branch out into the enterprise space, sell into enterprises and large governments because they want to see a SOC 2 Type 2 for third-party risk management. We have this study, this empirical research study will be absolutely bananas good for us once we have evidence that proves the anecdotal evidence we've seen to date, right? Anecdotally, people rate us highly. Anecdotally, IT teams stop getting hundreds of emails a week asking, is this a fish? Is that a fish? Because people become more self-sufficient, more confident in that sufficiency, more efficient in their day-to-day, and they rate us highly because of it. But we have to prove it with empirical research. Yes, there are lots of folks on the internet that say something, therefore it's true, but we want to have the actual old school research proof that what we do is better. So when we combine that with our SOC 2, and we have a patent pending on our approach with the patent office here in the US. If all three of those things come together, I think we're really well situated for some incredible growth in every industry. Because imagine that you're an IT person. Every time you send out a phishing test, people are upset with you. You're undermining their feelings of goodwill with your IT department. You argue that it's a necessary evil. We have to do this because the consequences are so bad. But then I come along and say, well, actually, no. Here's a way to build morale, to have people enjoy their training, to get them to engage without, a constant fear of a stick. More carrots, less stick is what we say. And, you get to look like the hero instead of the bad guy. Who wouldn't want that, right?
Sure. So which metrics are you most wanting to improve upon?
Well, I think there's a number of different metrics that we have where we have a pretty solid EBITDA from a cost and cost management perspective. I think as we grow, our costs are kind of somewhat static, and yet as we grow, the EBITDA should grow greatly. But I would like to say our enrollment of MSPs would be great. We'd like to reduce the churn on retention if we could. I think we'd like to have the companies that are using us, at least in some capacity, grow their capacity even further. So all of these things, I think the biggest metric is our bottom line. How much revenue are we generating? We're over, in the millions of dollars now, but we'd like to take that up as high as 9 digits if we could.
Very nice. So, that kind of answers my next question. Where would you like to be in the next 6 to 12 months?
Well, 6 to 12 months, we're looking to double our size in terms of revenue, client base, users in the system. But moving beyond that, we'd like to continue to grow into the multiple millions of dollars in revenue, sign more partnership agreements. We have a very enviable position where our Hootfish exercise that we deliver can be done in any email system without modification. The system on the planet requires you to punch holes to get these fake emails to the inboxes. So it's very cumbersome, time-consuming, difficult. It erodes goodwill. It doesn't help with client retention. We've solved like 10 different problems in the industry, from the end user to the administrators to the businesses selling services to the companies that want a more robust user base. Everywhere you looked, we've solved a critical problem, and yet we're still at our beginning phase of growth, I would say.
Okay. Well, wonderful. So that about wraps up our podcast for today. Thank you so much for joining. I can't wait to have some follow-up discussions with you. And is there anything else you'd like to tell our viewers?
Yes, I think if I could have a call to action, it would be this. The more proactive you can be with either your own company or as a business, as an MSP, perhaps you're listening to this, signing up for a service like ours to create positive goodwill with your clients and their employees, you cannot fail. And the time to do it is when you're in control. Too often we get called in after the fact when there's been a breach and there's a response where we have to fix this problem. And now you're at the barrel of a gun trying to fix something instead of doing it proactively on your own time with a reasonable amount of cost. So do something today. Reach out to sales@cyberhoot.com to book a demo. We give it away free for 30 days. We have a month-to-month contract. We're not locking you in like the rest of the industry wants to lock you in for a year, 2 years, 3 years to get the best pricing. We give you the best bottom dollar pricing from the beginning at a month-to-month contract. So sales@cyberhoot.com. You can register for a demo at cyberhoot.com. Watch our videos on YouTube or anywhere else for an overview of our platform, just to get a little bit more knowledge of how it works and why it might be beneficial.
Thank you so much, Craig. We've now heard from Craig Taylor, CEO of CyberHoot. Don't forget to visit his website, cyberhoot.com. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining CEO Tech Talks. I hope today's conversation sparked new insights and inspiration for your own leadership journey. Until next time, stay inspired, stay visionary, and keep leading with light. Brought to you by Neura AI Consulting.